Descending through 3,000 feet over the East Bay Hills, a vibration started in the cowling that I felt in my teeth. As it worsened, I banked into a sharp 180-degree turn back toward Livermore. 7 miles out and dropping through 2,500 feet, I was facing a choice. Pull the mixture now and fall short of the runway, or let it run and risk a catastrophic mid-air fire or the engine ripping off its mounts. This was a day 1,100 hours in the making.
That heart-pounding moment over the East Bay Hills was the climax of a gamble I didn't even know I was taking. I was doing a favor for a friend, ferrying a Cessna 172 that was 1,100 hours past recommended engine overhaul. I'm Jim, and today on the Chronicles we're looking at what happens when a routine flight turns into a flight to keep the engine on the mounts. This is the story of the 1,100-hour gamble.
This story dates back to the 1990s, featuring the Minden-Tahoe airport, where a close friend and business partner owned a small flight school. One of his aircraft was a 1981 Cessna 172. At the time, the aircraft had a total time of 3,100 hours on the airframe and engine. The engine was 1,100 hours beyond recommended engine overhaul. My friend was an A&P mechanic and maintained the aircraft himself. Due to the high engine time, he finally decided to have the engine overhauled. I recommended another friend of mine who had a shop at the Hayward Executive Airport. I put them together and they worked out a deal to overhaul the engine. When the time came to ferry the 172 to Hayward, no one was available, so I volunteered to fly it down as a favor. The plan was, after landing in Hayward, my friend would drive me to Oakland to catch a Southwest flight back to Reno. The day of the ferry flight, I arrived at the Minden Airport mid-morning to pick up the 172. The weather forecast was VFR all the way to the Bay Area. I pre-flighted the 172, departed the Carson Valley, and headed over Lake Tahoe. The aircraft's performance was completely normal during takeoff, climb, and cruise. Once I cleared the Sierras, I descended to a cruising altitude of 8,500 feet. The flight route was smooth and clear, and as I was approaching Stockton, I began my descent to Hayward. Soon I was over Livermore, and not long after that I was approaching the East Bay Hills between Livermore and Hayward while descending through 3,000 feet. Just then I noticed a vibration coming from the engine. I immediately came back on the power and scanned the engine gauges, which seemed okay. The vibration was getting worse, so I made a right 180-degree turn back toward Livermore and radioed the Livermore Tower. I informed them that I was 7 miles west at 2,500 feet, experiencing engine problems, and needed to try to land at Livermore as soon as possible. The tower cleared me to land runway 25 right, the long runway, while I was still 6 miles out. I was faced with a difficult decision based on these harsh realities. First, this engine could blow at any moment. Second, if I pulled the mixture now, I couldn't make it to the airport. Third, if I let the engine run too long, it could result in a catastrophic failure and possible in-flight fire, or the engine separating from the motor mounts. I decided to let the engine run at reduced power for a little while longer to close the distance between me and the airport. It worked. Pretty soon the engine began shaking so violently I was forced to pull the mixture. By this time I was within gliding distance of the airport and advised the tower my engine was now out, but that I had sufficient altitude to make the runway. I entered a left downwind for runway 25 right. Shortly after I made an uneventful landing and coasted off the runway where a couple guys who were watching me land with the prop stopped, walked over and helped me pull the aircraft to a tie-down. I called my buddy in Hayward and had him drive over to pick me up and examine the airplane. Needless to say, the overhaul cost was substantially more expensive due to the internal engine damage, along with the process of working between Hayward and Livermore to complete the overhaul.
In the end, that overhaul cost my friend a whole lot more than if he just pulled the engine at 2,000 hours. For me, it was just another day in the life of a pilot, but it's a reminder that in aviation, luck is a limited resource. Don't spend it all on a single ferry flight. If you've ever pushed an engine past its limits, tell me your story in the comments. I'm Jim. Thanks for stopping by the Chronicles. I'll see you in the next chapter of the storybook.